In this video, we'll explore why there is a gap between your out-of-game knowledge and in-game execution, how to identify and remove your biggest performance blockers that are secretly sabotaging your game, and the performance amplifiers that will help you to finally start playing your best poker consistently. So if you're ready to close the gap and start winning like that player that you know you are, then let's dive in. When knowledge doesn't translate to win rates. Imagine that if every time you studied, you added a small bit of extra information to your knowledge bucket, in that you had access to all your poker knowledge every time you sat down to play. You'd be pretty unstoppable, right? Unfortunately, for most poker players, this isn't their reality. The knowledge they have out of game isn't readily available at the tables, and they find themselves making sloppy mistakes and spewy calls that they know they should be able to avoid. There's a disconnect between their theoretical understanding and their in-game execution, which only seems to widen the more they learn. This is the performance gap in action. But why does it happen, and how do we fight back? Unmasking the performance blockers. Two major culprits sabotage your game, often without you even realizing: your emotions and your biases. Let's first look at the impact of your emotions. Performance blocker number one, emotions. Emotions can easily hijack your logic. Imagine this. It's the final table of a big tournament and you finally built up a monster stack. But then disaster strikes. You get a bad beat getting in aces against King Queen and you lose the majority of your stack. A wave of frustration and anger soon floods over you. Soon, all that patience and discipline that you've been working on goes out the window. You start making some reckless plays, spewy calls, and before you know it, you're out of the tournament. That's emotions hijacking your logic in action. And we've all been there. A string of bad beats, a tilting opponent, or the frustration of being down a few buy-ins can send your emotions into overdrive. Instead of making calculated decisions, you're chasing your losses, forcing plays, and letting your frustrations dictate your strategy. Maybe an opponent has been playing aggressively towards you for the past hour, and you feel like he's pushing you around. Instead of folding to his 3-bet like you normally would, you decide to go for a light 4-bet. Or you're feeling frustrated that you're 5 buy-ins down. Now, instead of making a disciplined hero fold, you decide to call a river jam to see what he has. Making decisions out of your emotional state rarely works out well at the poker tables. So what's the solution? You have to train your emotional regulation. Emotional regulation allows you to calibrate your emotional responses relative to the situation you find yourself in. It's not about becoming an emotionless robot. It's about learning to acknowledge, manage, and channel your emotions more effectively. You can train yourself to stay calm under pressure, make rational decisions even when everything is going against you, and avoid yourself making those costly emotional blunders. More on this later. Then there's the second performance blocker, cognitive biases. Biases cloud your judgment, and we all have them, pre-existing beliefs and mental shortcuts that influence our decisions. In poker, these biases can lead to faulty assumptions about opponents, overestimating our own reads, or clinging to a strategy even when the situation calls for a change. Let's unmask a few of the common culprits. Confirmation bias, seeing what you want to see. Imagine you've tagged an opponent as loose aggressive, a maniac. Confirmation bias can lead you to interpret all of their actions through that lens, even when it doesn't apply. Now you find yourself in a messy river spot and you convince yourself that they're always bluffing, and you end up making a costly hero call. Then there's results-oriented thinking, mistaking luck for skill. Results-oriented thinking tricks us into believing positive outcomes validate our decisions, whereas negative outcomes means we made a mistake. For instance, winning a big pot with a risky bluff doesn't mean you played the hand well. Similarly, running into a strong hand when you make a bluff doesn't mean you played it incorrectly. This bias can lead us to overconfidence during lucky wins and self-doubt during unlucky losses, both of which harm your long-term results. Then there's anchoring bias, getting stuck on the first piece of information. Anchoring bias makes us overly reliant on the first piece of information we receive, even if it's not relevant later. This works very much like first impressions. If you meet somebody and you like them in the first few minutes, you very quickly form an image that this is a good person. On the flip side, if you dislike somebody in the first 10 seconds, very quickly, no matter what they say, you're switching off. In the poker context, it can make you cling on to the early perception of a strong hand, even when the board has dramatically changed against you. For example, you think your opponent is bluffing on the turn and you're ready to hero call him on the river. Then all the draws complete and you snap call instead of reevaluating the hand with the new information. We all have biases, as the mind tries to make mental shortcuts to deal with the vast amount of information we're having to process. So what's the solution? You need to develop your perspective skill. Perspective helps us challenge our assumptions. Biases thrive on our natural tendency to make quick judgments based on small amounts of information. Perspective encourages us to question these assumptions and look for alternative explanations. You can train yourself to recognize your biases, challenge those unhelpful thought patterns, and make decisions based on logic and long-term strategy. Now that you understand the two main performance blockers, take a moment to reflect on your own game. Which one of the performance blockers do you struggle with the most? Is it emotions getting the better of you? Or is it biases clouding your judgments? Let me know in the comments below. Once you've identified your biggest obstacle, you can start working on strategies to overcome it. If you want to learn more about how to train these skills and the other skills you need to build a bulletproof poker mindset, I put together a free hour training for you, which you can get access to in the description. Now, removing the performance blockers of emotions and biases is only half the battle. To truly excel in poker, you need to go beyond simply avoiding pitfalls. You need to learn to amplify your strengths. This is where performance amplifiers come in. These are skills and strategies that elevate your game, helping you access your full potential at the poker tables. Think of it like this. Removing the performance blockers of emotions and biases is like taking your foot off the brake. Then the performance amplifiers are like hitting your foot on the accelerator. Let's explore some of these powerful skills that can help you bring your best game to the tables. Performance amplifier number 1, focus. Poker is a game of mass information and razor-sharp decision-making. Yet distractions lurk everywhere at the table, from your phone to a chatty opponent when you're playing live to your own wandering thoughts. Focus is about training your mind to stay present and engaged, absorbing all the crucial information of every hand. Imagine having a mental spotlight that you can direct at will, illuminating the most important information while blocking out the irrelevant noise. Focus is like a muscle that you can train with practice. Performance amplifier number 2, presence. Presence is a high-level skill that allows you to be in tune with your environments and pick up on all the most important information. A lot of players get stuck in a state of overthinking and self-doubt when they're trying to make tough decisions. Presence is about trusting your intuition, making confident decisions, and avoiding second-guessing yourself, especially in high-pressure scenarios. When you learn to master presence, poker feels fun and easy. You have confidence in your reads, and you go with them. Performance amplifier number 3, energy optimization. We've all been there. You sit down to play, ready to grind, but your energy feels super low. You're fighting off fatigue, struggling to focus, and your decision-making feels as sharp as a sponge. There's nowhere to hide. The fact is, poker demands peak mental performance if you want to play at your best. To make those clutch reads, exploit those subtle tells, and maintain your edge for hours on end, you need to treat your energy levels like your bankroll. Guard them fiercely and invest in their growth. That's where the skill of energy optimization comes in. It's not about downing coffees or energy drinks and hoping for the best. It's about understanding how your body creates, uses, and recovers energy, and then implementing strategies to maximize your physical and mental resources. It's a key skill for peak performance at the tables. So there you have it, the performance gap explained. Now you understand why simply accumulating knowledge isn't going to help you consistently win at poker. It's about bridging the gap between what you know and how you can perform, consistently trying to close that gap and show up as the best version of yourself at the tables. But this is just the beginning. Now it's time to take action and turn this knowledge into tangible results at the poker tables. Here's your action items. Number 1, identify your biggest performance blocker. What's the one thing holding you back the most? Do you struggle to stay in control of your emotions, or do you have cognitive biases that impair your decision making? This becomes your area to go deeper. Action item number 2, choose one performance amplifier to focus on. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Pick one skill, focus, presence, or energy optimization, and commit to getting better at it. Action item number 3, join the free Bulletproof Mindset training. I put together an hour-long training on how to build a bulletproof mindset for poker, where you will learn how to train each of these skills you've learned today. Head down to the description and sign up for the free training. It's packed with actionable advice on how to level up your game and close the performance gap for good. Now, closing the performance gap in poker is an ongoing process. There will be ups and downs, but by consistently working on your mental game and optimizing your performance, you can unlock your true potential and play your best poker consistently.